ultimately a fan of the Funimation dub. That's especially with the Kai stuff now. Ultimately, I'm a fan of the Japanese version ever since I started watching Kai in Japanese. Because, ever since I started watching Kai, when I watch clips of, the old dub of Dragon Ball Z that was on TV, it's almost unbearable, even for all the good people who were voiced like Goku at like a certain point, and Krillin. Krillin was ultimately voiced, perfectly in my opinion. And whatnot. I think they did a good job. With Krillin, like Sonny Strait, and he also did a great job as Bardock. He was a great actor overall, I think. And then Kai came around, all their voices got so much better. But it really sort of carried over from the redubs of the original series that they did, which ultimately sort of clashes with the older dub, which is the main reason why I would recommend you guys watch Dragon Ball Kai as opposed to watch the original Dragon Ball Z. Because one, it's probably going to be shorter, and two, the voice acting is going to be consistent, especially when they release like an Ultimate Collection thing. Because in the Orange Bricks and even the American Dragon Box, I mean, the voices are still inconsistent unless you're watching the Japanese version completely. Like, just throughout. And, I understand that, the dub wasn't as accurate as it probably could have been. Goku probably sounded a little too much like, Superman, in a way. Not that Goku isn't a Superman. I mean, he's a pretty good guy, but I guess he didn't sound happy-go-lucky until much later. Vegeta, he doesn't sound that good. He still doesn't sound that good. Or he sounds alright. Ultimately, he sounds fine. He does a better job than he did in the past when he was like really scratchy, right? When he brings that lowness to it. This is Vegeta. Mwahaha. I am going to attack you from a lower angle. And that's a step in a right direction because that's what Ryo Horikawa did. But ultimately, I think he's overall the best Vegeta is the Japanese version. But if I had to choose an English version, I'd choose the Milton James guy. I think that's his name, Milton James. He does Vegeta so effing well. If he probably could have bring his voice down a little bit lower, but other than that, he's pretty dang good. I mean, I don't think the voice actors in Final Bout were necessarily that bad. It wasn't that they're bad, it's just they were so different because at that point, the Funimation dub had been like so ingrained into our brains that, more so than the Ocean dub, that we had gotten so used to them, like, hearing anything different would just make us laugh because it was just different. But, like I said, I've been watching the Japanese version of Kai. And I've been watching it, the way most animes watch today, which is a sad thing. I'm not downloading it. I have, but only just to see the overall quality. And I can't even watch it because, like, the subs don't work. So I just watch it streamed on the internet. And I plan on buying the DVDs when they're actually, like, released, like the full collection thing. When they've decided on one version of Dragon Soul that they will add in, because they have fucking 3. The Sean Shamel, Vic Mignogna, and Justin Cook version. And so I'll probably do that. I've gotten used to Goku's Japanese voice too, actually. It fits. Masako Nozawa does a great job, because even though she's an elderly woman, when you hear her voice, she doesn't sound like a woman. Her Goku almost doesn't even sound like a woman. It sounds like a guy with a high voice. It's going to be a real sad day if Dragon Ball is still going on and, like, she dies, because then who's going to replace her? A lot of voice actors have died. No one truly major. I mean, but Daisuke Gori, like, freaking killed himself, and now we don't have Hercule. We have a replacement, but, the real question is, who would do Goku? I have 2 ideas. One probably would make sense, while the other one would also fit, but it would probably, just be so different that the fans would probably hate it. I think they should probably get Krillin's voice actor to do Goku for the Japanese version. I mean, she's pretty good. Mayumi Tanaka or whatever her name is. She's a pretty good voice actor. She also does Luffy. The other approach would be Tomokazu Seki. I think he would be a great Goku. Only problem is Tomokazu Seki is a man, and then that leaves like, okay, who's gonna do Gohan and Goten and whatnot? They'd have to like find voice actors for them. Because Masako Nozawa has done every male in Goku's family. Goku, Gohan, Goten, Bardock, Turles, even though he's not technically real. All that good stuff. Yeah, I love Dragon Ball. I love GT too. A lot of people don't really like GT, and I like GT, My only problem with it is, the Android 17 saga. I feel like, it's too much of a throwback to the original to the point where it's boring, I just found it boring. I hated how, like, they were bringing the villains back. The Frieza and Cell thing, that was unnecessary, because they did that in the filler arc of Z already. I mean, of course, that's going to be cut out of Kai, but I mean, like, do we really need to have a rehash where Goku fights them both at the same time when he's a kid? I mean, he's ultimately still stronger than him. So, what's the point? And I didn't like how they brought back, the baby villains so quickly, too. I felt like that, it was weird. I mean, Baby just died, and then they were bringing back, like the minions and whatnot. That's actually sort of worse than the whole Mega Frieza thing. I always felt that was kind of weird, especially in Kaina, because there's no. I know they say that a year's gone by, but in the spans of episodes, I mean, one episode doesn't seem like a whole year, in my opinion. So the Garlic Jr. filler arc kind of helps with that, because it kind of like, okay, this is what they're doing, currently, outside of their, I don't know, like, in between everything. Plus, that one sort of felt like a movie. I mean, I actually kind of like the Garlic Jr. saga. It's a little interesting. It's not canon, and it's bad. It's dumb that they had to bring back, a movie villain. I mean, they should have just, like, I don't know, I guess they couldn't really do anything else, but it does feel like a movie. I almost can't even watch it, as anything else. But yeah, the Super Android 17, and I didn't like how, I can see what they were going with. It was sort of going in like a weird formula, almost. Like, the Baby Saga, a connection to the Saiyans, in a way. Like, sort of the final ties. And sort of, in one way, Baby was sort of like the GT Frieza. Super Android 17, he was sort of like the GT Cell, and sort of, not really. I mean, they were both androids. I mean, but it sort of followed the same ultimate overlong formula of structure as that Dragon Ball Z did, which was fine. But, I think they should have just, I don't know, if they were going to do that, they probably should have, I don't know, drawn it out a little longer. And there are a few things about Dragon Ball GT that I think they should have fixed overall, but, not really much you can do about it. Like, particularly Vegeta overall needs to be friggin' fixed. He looks like friggin' Gohan with his stinking hair. He should have the same kind of hair that he had before. He's already settled down at that point. He doesn't even wear Saiyan armor anymore, and he becomes like the next like big hero almost by the end of the series. And the Shadow Dragons, that was a good way to end the series. Because, it had to do with the Dragon Balls, and it put the Dragon Balls against them, which was kind of interesting. And then it brought the whole 4-star thing kind of back, and it was kind of nice to see the 4-star dragon be friends with Goku, and I thought it was kind of funny how he swallowed the ball. Then, of course, Goku leaves. He really just goes off a little, but then he probably comes back. I don't think he actually like disappeared forever. I think he actually just like left for a little, and he came back obviously. And then he went back to, Grandpa Gohan's place to, eternally train for the rest of his life. And no one ever saw Goku ever again. Then Goku Jr., Vegeta Jr. in the GT movie, which is really the only thing we have even remotely close to a Dragon Ball AF. If any of you guys still believe in that, please just stop. It's not real. I'm sorry, but AF is not real. What they were gonna do to the series anyway, even if it was real, that would have been so terrible. I mean, they were doing like the most outrageous stuff that probably shouldn't even happen. Like, oh, I learned how to fuse with 3 people. That's impressive. It's like, that's kind of cool, but I mean, what's the friggin' point? Who would be the major villain? Ixor, that one guy who's like Goku's like descendant. Then Super Saiyan 5, that was kind of cool. But then again, Super Saiyan 4 sort of was stretching it, though I do like Super Saiyan 4. And Akira Toriyama has stated that he likes Super Saiyan 4. And I mean, it is sort of canon in the games, and Dragon Ball has sort of evolved into a video game franchise anyway, so ultimately that's sort of what matters. If it wasn't for Kai, we probably wouldn't have another series. I mean, it would be nice if we got another movie or something. We've gotten some animated specials like the plan to eradicate the Super Saiyans and whatnot. And then the Jump special, which was kind of cool, which is sort of an epilogue. And Dragon Ball Online, which I think is going to become canon in some way, because there's a lot of epilogue work that was done. Like there's like this timeline that I heard and whatnot. Well, I've talked a lot about the series, but I probably should talk about why I like the series. Well, one, it's just fun to look at, you know. The characters are also designed so well. It's fun to watch, ultimately. I mean, the music is pretty good at times. Even in the Japanese version, with its band music, it has its good moments, like, you know, all the insert songs they do. Then Trunks' theme song, Battle Power Unlimited, where it's all, like, technical. It still sounds like, you know, it's an 80s song, but it's still a good song. A lot of the good songs and whatnot. And, you know, the Bruce Falconer, that had good music too. The Kai music has pretty good music too. And the video game music is pretty good as well. It's actually done by the same guy who does Kai, so, you know. Yeah. Also, the story parts that they actually do, I do like. When I'm talking about, keep in mind, I'm talking about the entire series. Like, you know, as you can probably guess, I did eventually go back to Dragon Ball. That was nice to actually finally finish that. And see, you know, the whole Piccolo Daimao thing, or King Piccolo. And how Krillin sort of came around, and how he was an a-hole to Goku. How Yamcha came around, how Tien came around, who was also a bit of an a-hole. And how Jiaozu couldn't do math. That was so funny. It's like, that's not fair. You know, when you think about it, that's almost like, you know, not even fair. I mean, he probably shouldn't have listened. And then the Crane Master tried to teach him math. But, you know, series is pretty good. Series. The voice acting is pretty good. At least the English dub's gotten pretty good. And the Japanese version is pretty good. The problem with the original Japanese version is that the audio quality wasn't that good. I don't know. It's like, you know, Toei or Shueisha or whoever was doing the voice recordings. They apparently didn't believe in fixing up the files and like thought that, you know, once the files were recorded, they were done, which isn't even true. That would be like me taking this file and then like the audio file like not even doing anything. There'd be like all this bzzz, all this little static and buzz in the background. You know how I always like fix up the videos. They fixed that up in Kai, and they've tried to fix it up in the release of Dragon Ball. You can kind of tell sometimes if you look up clips. But you know, and you know, all that good junk. And yeah. And plus, you know, all the action that Dragon Ball has. I need to sort of clear up a few things about Dragon Ball now that I think about it. Before I get onto my final subject, which might get me a little riled up, so just keep in mind for that. I need to clear up a few things about Dragon Ball. One thing, this is not really pertaining to, like, the Ocean dub or anything like that. I mean, to be honest, the Ocean dub, it was fine starting off, but the people